Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. Like everyone else, I had the fantasies of inserting myself into TV shows and movies that I loved watching as a kid. So we're just going to go straight into that, so let's get started. So the first one I'm going to talk about is also the most recent one that I came up with, and it's going to have 3 different images attached to it. This character is going to be for the show Miraculous, Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir, which I recently reviewed on my channel, so go watch that when you're done with this. The character here is going to be named Antonio Bellatoni, who is going to be a transfer student from Italy, which is my own touch because my family originates from Italy. In his first episode, he's going to be shown to be on the shy side, but will also be almost immediately accepted by most of the students, sitting behind Marinette in Miss Boustier's class. He's also going to be a fan of a show from Italy called Mighty Guardians, which is going to be this world's version of Power Rangers, mostly so that there's not really any copyright claim issue between the two shows, and he owns all of the toys from that show. However, when Chloe sees that he plays with these kinds of toys, she furiously says that the toys are for babies, not teenagers, and breaks one of them. This toy, the Red Guardian, is Antonio's favorite toy, and this causes Antonio to break down crying and run away to the bathroom. But this sadness is all that Hawkmoth needed to enact his own plan.
Lost innocence, regret for oneself, despair for the things you love, such easy prey for my Akumas.
Fly away, my little Akuma, and evilize him!
Dark God, I am Hawkmoth. Your life of loving your childhood has been bullied for so long. I am giving you the power to show them how wrong you are. With this power, you'll be able to strike back against anyone who stands in your way, and give power unto others equal to your own. But I ask for something in exchange for this. Bring me Ladybug and Cat Noir's Miraculous. Now, do we have a deal? It will be done, Hawkmoth. The Dark God will do whatever it takes to achieve the ultimate victory!
He then becomes Dark Guard, who looks like one of the Mighty Guardians, having broadened shoulders and armor around his entire body, but with a much darker color scheme than the show would have. As Dark Guard, he can mimic any fighting style and put people under his control, turning them into his minions, transforming them into his own team of Dark Guardians. He then kidnaps people who are cruel to others or limit others' exposure to nostalgia, namely Chloe, Natalie, Roger, and Andre, along with hypnotizing Sabrina and Armand. He then manages to take down Ladybug and Cat Noir in their first fight, but they learn from this. Dark Guard then sets up his base at the soccer field. What a shock! Threatening to end the existence of those who hold people away from their dreams. But Ladybug and Cat Noir show up and battle him once again, and, with the power of the Lucky Charm, they take him down and de-evilize him. They let him head back home, and the next day, Antonio shows off new toys he's created, using models from some of his old model toys to make miraculous heroes. It's then that Sabrina begins to like him, but both of them can't find the words to talk to each other, which Alia will jokingly note sounds like Marinette. In a later episode, Shadow Moth makes Natalie Catalyst again, and turns most of Paris into villains. Deciding to not pull their punches this time, Marinette gives everyone their Miraculous back, but finds they still need help. She then finds a strange button leading to a new Miraculous, holding Echo, the Bat Kwami of Willpower. She then gives the Miraculous to Antonio, who only needs to say, "Echo, fly high!" to transform into Lunar Bat, who can fly, has night vision, and the special ability to give courage to others and destroy the darkness within, which he calls Lightbringer. In the main fight, though, Viperion also uses his second chance ability, and Antonio isn't affected by this. Echo reveals that since he is the Kwami of pure willpower, he and his Miraculous user experience time differently, so they aren't affected by ripples in the space-time continuum. When the heroes eventually win, with many failures and run-ins with akumatized Chloe and Lila, Antonio gives the Bat Miraculous back to Ladybug and confesses he has a bit of a crush on her. She tells him that she loves someone else, but that he must have someone else that he can go to, and to just go for it. The next day at school, he musters up all his courage and asks Sabrina out on a date, much to Chloe's fury. And as they watch, Alia would say something along the lines of, "Practice what you preach, girl." Now, I will admit, when I started writing out the story for him, I hadn't finished watching the show yet, so I had no idea how things were going to play out. But we could say that this is an alternate timeline or something. Like, it could have happened sometime after Penalty, but before the Season 4 finale Strike Back. But I don't know, that's kind of the thing with these fan inserts. There's never really a clear answer of when it could take place. And now, onto my actual notes. I liked making this one because it gave me the chance to make 3 images with the head shape of 1, and make 3 different poses for one character. This was something new that I got into, and it was something that I loved talking about, even over several videos. And this story about Antonio was one that I came up with almost immediately after I first watched the show. I really enjoyed making this, and I hope you guys like it too. So, let's take a look. The next one on my list is just known as Son Antony, and he comes from the Dragon Ball Z universe, being related to Son Goku. Somehow. I legit don't remember how I made him related, but it was either being Goku's brother, cousin, or descendant, the latter of which I'm currently leaning towards for this current iteration of the character. Why is that? Because it's the easiest for me to work with on this, and it causes the least amount of story problems and plot holes. Now, the biggest thing about Son Antony is that, like Goku, he seeks the thrill of battle, enjoying fights against the strongest in the universe. However, he's not as, well, dumb as Goku, and will absolutely eliminate his opponent when needed. Yeah, while he will allow his opponent to show off, as he puts it, a bit during the fight, he won't do things like stopping the fight halfway through to give them a senzu bean and allow them to get their full strength back. For example, in the fight against Frieza, Goku gave Frieza time to power up and gave Frieza some energy to learn from his mistakes. But in this kind of case, Antony would have heeded King Kai's warnings, or would have just let the tyrant die when he was cut in half. He will also think things through for a battle, utilizing clever strategies rather than just who has the strongest drive to win mentality. For example, when dealing with multiple opponents, he'll allow them to take each other out, saving up his energy for later. But he will still attempt to take down the main boss on his own to see if he's strong enough. to see if he's the best and if he's able to protect his world and his own family. Also, like Goku, he can power up to the Super Saiyan levels, but he's managed to unlock new forms on a near boss level basis, meaning whenever a new boss appears. Among these many forms include the usuals, like Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan 4, and Super Saiyan Ultra, but he unlocked a new form that he calls Super Saiyan 100. This brand new form boosts his power by a factor of 1 million, making him capable of going toe-to-toe with and even defeating the gods of the gods of the god of destruction. I'm not joking, with how I made this form and what it can do, he would be able to beat down gods like Beerus and give Whis a run for his money. However, when he first used this form against yet another villain who wants to destroy the world, Antony nearly destroyed the entire universe. Now, he limits his power, creating what he calls Super Saiyan 50, as the full form could make him go completely insane if it's used for too long, and he could start to become a danger to his family and his closest friends. And while this limiter form makes some battles more difficult, he does it to not mistake friend from foe, and it honestly makes the battles more fun for him, as he feels he's always up for a new challenge. Also, staying at Super Saiyan 50 for extended fights helps him to better control himself if he ever were to go Super Saiyan 100 again. He thinks. So it's also a win-win situation for him. Now, I'm not a Dragon Ball expert or anything, but I loved Dragon Ball Z Kai growing up. I would actually watch that show on Saturday mornings. Remember that? Of course you probably don't. Nobody grew up with that in this day and age. But I wanted to bring up the fact that I watched that show growing up, but didn't watch it religiously, so I might be missing some points from the anime that would be normal for this kind of character. So, you guys can roast me in the comments section about that if you want to. Not much else to talk about for son Antony, but I will say that I drew him first in his base form, but then decided to draw him in the power to up Super Saiyan 50 form to not make this a drawing of a Goku cosplay. If you guys want me to, I can make a new drawing later on to show the full Super Saiyan 100 form. But regardless, I hope you guys liked this drawing, so let's check it out. My next character fits into the Transformers universe, and was originally conceived to be either the successor of Optimus Prime, his brother, or his son. Which was it? I don't remember, and quite honestly, I don't think I would have thought that far ahead or even known at the time. That's honestly how I was whenever I made these insert myself into my favorite franchise stories, as I was always more focused on making the characters cool and less on having their relations to the characters actually make sense. When I first made this character, my only exposure to Transformers was through the Michael Bay films, which came out when I was a kid, and later I discovered the Transformers animated show, which rekindled my interest in the franchise. It was then that I made my first redesign of the character, both in appearance and relation to a pre-existing character. This time, the character of Antonius was the nephew of Prowler. You know, the motorcycle Autobot from Transformers Animated. Yeah, and I also had Antonius be able to transform into a dark-colored motorcycle, which I now kind of realize is the exact same thing as Prowler. And before that, I had him look almost exactly like Bumblebee. Huh. Seems I was very much into ripping off original shows rather than making a fully original character. Ah, well, things were very different back then, and I'm a lot better at making more original characters. So, moving on, as later I discovered the Transformers Prime show through my Saturday morning cartoons, which were still going when I was growing up, and the character changed along with the new show. However, no matter how much I try these days, I cannot for the life of me tell you what this character was like, only recalling that this iteration of the character was going to be either the brother or the son of Optimus Prime. Or it could have been that with Bumblebee too. I don't know. I liked both characters growing up, and who knows what my mind went through when I was originally making the character. When I originally made the character, I had the character look very similar to Optimus, but be around the size of Bumblebee, and be able to transform into a blue car. Possibly with black stripes, but I legit don't remember. Though I do believe there were times I also had him transforming into a black car. Which, black and blue are actually my favorite colors. Thanks, Batman. For this current iteration of the character, as you can see, I'm making him turn into a black Volkswagen Jetta, which just so happens to be my current car. And honestly, I think it looks really cool. I also have the story of him now being the younger cousin of Optimus, and he is the newest Autobot being given the role of Prime to act as Optimus's successor. He will also be between the heights of Optimus and Bumblebee, meaning he'll be around 13 to 18 feet tall. He would also take his role as leader less seriously than Optimus would in general, acting less like the all-knowing father and more like the jokey big brother for the other Autobots. But it's during battle that he gets more serious. See, in the comparison of Antonius versus Optimus, while Optimus doesn't exactly enjoy fighting, except maybe against Decepticons, but even then, I haven't watched everything Transformers, so I don't know the full story, but will fight when necessary, Antonius enjoys the fight and wants to go into battle constantly, only being stopped by more experienced Autobots, including Optimus. Also, his primary weapon is going to be an energy sword, which isn't too original, but it just looks cool. And as for Antonius's personality, part of it was somewhat inspired by RJ from Power Rangers Jungle Fury, who is one of my favorite Power Ranger mentors. Not much else to say about him except I do like where his design went, and I hope you guys like it too. So let's take a look. And the last character I'm going to do for this is a character from a franchise I don't have much exposure to. This character is known as Antony the Hedgehog, who came about when I was watching the Sonic X anime show. Again, this all ties back to my Saturday morning cartoons. I know you guys are probably sick of hearing this already, but that's how I got my exposure to a lot of these shows. Now, when I was a kid, this character started out as something along the lines of a combo between Sonic and Shadow, with either blue fur with black and red highlights or black fur with blue highlights. But today, I'm taking the idea of the character one step further and redesigning him with 75% completely original design. Here, he's still going to be a hedgehog, but with purple fur, and a high-octane personality similar to Sonic, but more like a kid, as I was a kid when I first came up with him, and his age here will be that of a 13-year-old boy. Now, he's not going to have natural super speed like Sonic, but he will have high-powered boots that link to an exoskeleton thanks to the nefarious Dr. Eggman, which allows him to keep up with and even surpass Sonic on multiple occasions. I also, once again, had him related to Sonic in some way when I first created him, either as his brother or cousin, but this isn't how I imagine him now. More so for this story, he's just another random hedgehog that was originally brainwashed by Eggman when given the exoskeleton to defeat and even kill the Blue Blur. And now, with the brainwashing reversed and him back to his senses, he fights alongside Sonic and his friends to save the world from Eggman. Yet many of the others, like Knuckles and Shadow, see him as too young to be in this fight. But Sonic is always encouraging to the young lad and gives him the strength and motivation to keep going. And Anthony can use the Chaos Emeralds to become Super Anthony, able to maintain and even surpass the speed of light with little efforts. When I was a kid, I actually didn't know that there was a time limit for the supersonic form, and so I had no time limit for him. Boy, that would have made him way too OP for this franchise. So he will still have the time limit, but since he's untrained in this form like Sonic or Shadow, his amount of time is less than them, only lasting for about 30 seconds, let's say. He also discovered a strange stone on a space mission, which gave him more power, allowing him to transform into a thought to have been lost, never before seen form known as Hypernova Anthony, capable of changing reality and even time travel. This form changes his fur to a silver and gold set, and giving him hot red eyes. However, this form is incredibly dangerous, as for every minute he's in this form, his lifespan is reduced by a year. And the form can tire him out when battling a being of equal or greater power, forcing him out of the form. However, he'll keep fighting on to make sure that his friends, the world, and even the universe is safe. And while I don't have the entirety of his story set in stone, the idea that comes into my mind is that during a fight with one particularly dangerous and powerful villain, and with the others being beaten and weakened to exhaustion, Anthony will go hypernova and destroy the villain, sacrificing his own life in the process. Yeah, he'd legit die by the end of the battle, and he'd be given a warrior's funeral by the characters. Pretty dark, yes, but it would show kids that not every hero will survive in the end. And that's the true life of a hero, in my opinion. I really enjoyed this story, though I came up with the ending way later, yet still enjoyed making this along with the message, and I hope the drawings I made are fun, since I write these in advance. So, let's now take a look at the finished drawing of Antony the Hedgehog. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I did have a lot of fun making this, as it was a chance for me to experiment with some new techniques and put in some new poses and new design elements to it. But even though these are all mine, I want to know what your guys' favorite shows and movies were. Seriously, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to know what you guys loved growing up, and I might actually check them out, and maybe I'll make it for a sequel. Also, check out my Discord server. It's a great place to just talk with me and other people about the videos that I put out, and it's where I'll be putting up updates every once in a while, and even putting up some additional footage and questions and all that stuff. Also, follow me on Twitter as well at prnerd_official, and check out my TikTok as well. I don't post there too often, but I have been for certain items. Also, follow me on Instagram at PowerRangers_nerd. I put up the artworks for all of my speed paint videos on there for you guys to check out. Also, check out my Patreon as well. I'm still kind of in the process of making it, but it is a great way for you guys to support me and keep the lights on here. And also, by becoming a member on Patreon, you'll be able to get early access to my videos as well. And you can even get some shoutouts on my YouTube channel as well. So, I'd suggest giving that a look too. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, guys, and I'll see you next time.